Hello everyone and welcome to our live coverage of Starlink Group 10-12 mission launching from Space Coast, that is from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. We hope you guys are doing alright and getting hyped for this SpaceX launch, marking the first ever SpaceX's international landing. If this is your first time here, hi, my name is Dipta Maitra. I'll be your host providing commentary for today's mission launch, and you are watching AstroYonder live.
Roger, 0G, and I feel fine. Capsule is turning around.
Houston, we see a nominal MECO. Welcome to space.
We are super excited bringing you the coverage of the SpaceX's 449th overall launch and the 21st Falcon 9 launch of this year. This also marks the 436th Falcon 9's overall launch. Today's launch is the 15th one from the Space Coast, as SpaceX is on its way building their incredible launch cadence for this year. Guess another record-breaking total annual launches for this year they will be having. Now we are waiting for a Falcon 9 liftoff at 6:21 p.m. Eastern Time, 23:21 hours UTC from Florida for a southeasterly launch for SpaceX Starlink mission. The Starlink 10-12 mission will launch 23 Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit. And just to remind you, there are no direct-to-cell satellites launching today. Before we dive in, on behalf of AstroYonder team and our awesome moderators, we want to thank all of you joining us for today's launch. We are truly grateful to have you all here. A big thanks to our amazing YouTube community for being here today, supporting us as we provide detailed coverage of space launches complete with extensive stats and thorough insights. Really appreciate you all being here. We would love it if you guys hop into the chat and let us know where you are tuning in from. Also feel free to drop any questions, suggestions, or share your thoughts as we move ahead. Now just a heads up, it's me only managing the launch coverages on my own, so if by chance we face any technical issues, please bear with me and hang tight. I will do my best to guide you through the upcoming Falcon 9 rocket launch happening in approximately 56 minutes from now. Now let's get into the mission details. As per the launch weather forecast published by the 45th Weather Squadron, today's weather for the launch looks quite promising, with only 5% probability of launch weather constraint violations, with very low chances of coastal showers, leaving a low threat of cumulus cloud rule violations. Otherwise, a decent weather, that is 95% favorable for the launch, is anticipated by the 45th Weather Squadron. Now let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that the launch proceeds on time without significant delays. But if for some reason launch does not happen today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow, that is on Wednesday, February 19th, with launch window opening at 6:05 p.m. Eastern Time. As of now, the probability of violation for the backup window, that is for tomorrow, is 50%, which means 50% favorable chances for the launch, and which could delay the launch by another 24 hours. Now let's take a look at the payload details for today's Starlink Group 10-12 mission. Just a typical another Starlink mission, you can say. No other significant changes in the payload for today. Built in Redmond, Washington, today's payload consists of 23 Starlink version 2 mini satellites. As mentioned before, this launch marks the 15th dedicated Starlink launch for this year. Each satellite is equipped with 5 advanced Ku-band phased array antennas, 3 dual-band parabolic antennas, which altogether utilizes Ku, Ka, and E-band frequencies. And also, each satellite is equipped with a 52.5 square meter dual solar array with a wingspan of 100 feet. These two solar arrays are also aeroneutral, which enable faster on-orbit maneuvers. Each satellite is equipped with a high-capacity battery to provide power to the payloads. Each Starlink satellite features 3 space laser transponders, that is optical intersatellite links or ISLs, for intercommunications operating at up to 200 Gbps. They use argon-fueled Hall-effect thrusters for in-orbit maneuvering, having previously used krypton as fuel. This switch between krypton to argon is due to for the cost effectiveness and the efficiency of the fuel. Now today's payload will be placed in an orbit with an altitude of 279 kilometers with an inclination of 53.16 degrees. Weighing approximately 1,763 pounds, 800 kilograms, each version Mini 2 satellites. Starlink satellites uses custom-built star tracker to find their position, altitude, and orientation for optimal broadband throughput. Each one has 4 reaction wheels for precise attitude control. By attitude control, I mean the orientation, plus a hot spare setup for the reliability, and the aluminum flywheel is designed to safely burn up at the end of its useful life. Additionally, the Starlink satellites are equipped with an onboard autonomous collision avoidance system for avoiding collisions with other spacecrafts and space junks autonomously, which utilizes the US Department of Defense debris tracking database. Now, just to make you understand the significance of this autonomous collision avoidance system on board the Starlink satellites, here is a quick context. According to a SpaceX report published last year, the Starlink satellites performs 275 collision avoidance maneuvers each day, and in that course of past 6 months, that is when this report was published, Starlink satellites performed 50,000 collision avoidance maneuvers. So I hope you can understand the importance of this autonomous collision avoidance system by these numbers. Now let's take a look at the flight record for the booster supporting today's Starlink 10-12 mission. The booster with tail number 1080 will be supporting today's mission. Today's booster has 15 previous flights in its record, including missions like 2 Axiom missions, AX2 and AX3 respectively for Axiom Space, which provides a private space flights to International Space Station. Meanwhile, preparation for the Axiom 4 missions are underway, with the launch targeting no earlier than spring this year, likely in May, possibly. Next mission supported by today's booster was the Euclid mission, launching the Euclid Space Telescope developed by European Space Agency. CRS-30, that is a commercial resupply service mission to the International Space Station, which marked the 10th flight for SpaceX under NASA's CRS Phase 2 contract. Next is the Astra 1P mission, which launched an Astra communication satellite built by Thales Alenia Space for SES as the owner, or you can say the operator, which is based in Luxembourg. Next one is NG-21, a commercial resupply services mission to the International Space Station operated by Northrop Grumman, and that was the 21st flight of the Cygnus, an expendable American cargo spacecraft. And right now we are expecting the undocking and the deorbit of Cygnus NG-21 spacecraft probably this month. Additionally, the booster also supported 9 Starlink missions, now awaiting its 16th flight just minutes away. The booster's turnaround time as of today is 36 days, and the last mission supported by today's booster was the Starlink 12-4 mission from here only at 6:40 on 13th of January this year. Now let's have a look at the bar graph showing number of Falcon 9 launches each year. Before this upcoming launch, SpaceX completed its 20th Falcon 9 launch for this year with the Starlink 12-8 mission. Now with today's launch of the Starlink 10-12 mission, the bar graph depicts 21 Falcon 9 launches for 2025 as SpaceX gears for another year full of record breakers. Previously, we all know SpaceX completed 132 launches of Falcon 9 last year, marking a year with the highest annual launches to date for SpaceX. That is 134 launches in total if we count 2 more Falcon Heavy launches. But if we will be counting the Starship flights, then the number rises to 138. According to Elon's previous tweet, which suggests we might see around 180 Falcon 9 launches this year specifically, and also more Starship flights this year. Now, if this stream fuels your love for space, we request you guys to kindly give us a like. It's like fine-tuning the trajectory of our YouTube space mission. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so that you won't miss a single launch update. We hope together we will build the ultimate constellation of space enthusiasts. Now please allow us a couple of seconds to check whether the launch is on time or not, and to stay updated. Well, it's on time, no issues. That's a good thing. Now I will be skipping the pre-launch timeline as because it's a typical Falcon 9 launch with no deviations from other launches. We'll just quickly jump into the trajectory part, which is the main center of attraction for today's launch. Falcon 9 leaving the pad from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station with a batch of 23 Starlink satellites on board for a southeast trajectory heading into low Earth orbit, that is to the 12th shell of the second generation Starlink mega constellation, indicated by that green line on your screen. The red line indicates where the Falcon 9 first stage will land after stage separation, just a little later leaving Florida Space Coast. This is going to be a drone ship landing, as we know, and today's mission is supported by Just Read the Instructions drone ship, one of the two here on the east coast. Today, the drone ship, just read the instructions, is positioned off the coast of the island named Exuma in the Bahamas, and this will be the 109th landing on just read the instructions to date, which will also mark the first ever international booster landing for SpaceX. The planned booster recovery is 605 kilometers with estimated fairing recovery approximately 687 kilometers downrange. And the stage 2 debris re-entry will be in the South Atlantic on the second orbit. Now let's dive a little bit deep into this trajectory so that I can give you guys a little bit insights about today's trajectory. Now today's mission, as we know, is for the Starlink Group 10 mission. Previously for Starlink Group 10 missions, the flight trajectory followed a northeast direction from the launch site as shown on your screen right now. However, thanks to this historic collaboration between SpaceX and Bahamian authorities, SpaceX now can fly southeast for 53 degrees Starlink missions instead of northeast. Now here is a trajectory comparison with the usual 43 degrees southeast route. The last Starlink mission for the Group 10, I guess it was Starlink Group 10-13 mission, probably launched on October of last year. I'm not sure. Maybe I will maybe I'm wrong, but as far as it's best of my knowledge right now. And I guess this new trajectory won't be limited to just Starlink missions, and SpaceX will utilize this trajectory for other missions as well. The new trajectory involve launching over the Bahamas, which allows for different inclinations or orbits not easily achievable from traditional US launch sites due to range safety and geographical limitations. Now, this allows Falcon 9 to maximize its performance by following the optimal southeast trajectory, which helps to launch human spaceflight missions as well, such as FRAM-2, the upcoming one, to the polar orbits. Moreover, this also provides greater winter weather recovery options. This will enhance SpaceX's capability to deploy satellites into various orbits, including those beneficial for global coverages with services like Starlink. I hope I could make you guys to understand what is new in this trajectory for today. And on your screen is the trajectory for today's mission, but showing the position of the booster recovery and the fairing recovery. Let's move ahead. We are approximately 18 minutes away from the webcast to begin, so let's just quickly move ahead and go through the stats and stuff. On your screen are some of the stats related to the drone ship fleet. Currently, as we know, there are 3 in SpaceX drone ship fleet. One of the 3 drone ships just read the instructions and a shortfall of Gravitas are stationed here in Florida, while of course I Still Love You is stationed in California. We do expect the addition of a 4th drone ship likely by this year. And with today's booster landing, just read the instructions will have its first international landing among the drone ship fleet. So that's a quite a big achievement for the drone ship just with the instructions apart from SpaceX. Now, speaking of fairing recovery, SpaceX will utilize a recovery vessel to retrieve them from Atlantic waters. The two halves of the payload fairing will be recovered slightly farther, approximately 82 kilometers downrange from where the first stage lands on just read the instructions drone ship. After they will smoothly splash down with the guidance of parachutes. Now on your screen you can see how a fairing recovery looks like. The recovery vessel on your screen is Doug performing the recovery operations, but today's supporting recovery vessel is Bob, one of the three here at the East Coast. Other recovery vessels, Doug and Go Cosmos, here at the East Coast, are currently awaiting their next assignment. Some few more close-up shots for the fairing recovery operations so that you guys can better understand how the fairing recovery looks like up close. Now we have a request again for you folks. Consider giving this stream a like as your way of boosting us past max Q. It helps us to connect with more space enthusiasts like you. And if you feel we are adding value to your viewing experience, consider subscribing and tapping the bell icon so that you will never miss an update like a perfectly timed launch window. Now let's move on to the stats related to today's mission launch. Today's launch marks 449th SpaceX's overall launch and the 15th dedicated Starlink launch of this year. This is going to be the 436th Falcon 9 launch to date, 16th flight of this particular Falcon 9 booster supporting today's mission, with tail number 1080 being in action after 36 days. Well, excuse me, please let me have a gulp of water. My throat is getting dry. Today's mission marks 21st Falcon 9 launch and SpaceX's 22nd overall launch of 2025. This will be the 381st Falcon booster reflight to date, meaning the launch of a particular booster that has flown at least once before. 234th orbital launch for SpaceX launching from Space Launch Complex 40, and the 289th overall orbital launch from this pad. With the success of this mission, SpaceX will have a staggering 7,973 Starlink satellites, including 492 dedicated direct-to-cell satellites launched to date. Prior to today's launch, overall 7,950 Starlink satellites have been launched to date, and just last year alone, a mind-boggling 1,982 Starlink satellites were launched. Despite having mishaps and delays due to weather conditions, they managed such a huge number of Starlink satellites to be launched. So hopefully SpaceX can surpass 2000 launches of Starlink satellites this year, provided no mishaps occur and weather issues come in between. Although weather issues won't come in between, that's a rare event here in the East Coast. But let's keep our fingers crossed. Now moving on to some reusability statistics. This launch marks 365th Falcon 9 booster reflight to date. This will be the 109th landing on Just Read the Instructions drone ship, 16th landing of the first stage booster with tail number 1080 supporting today's mission. With this mission's first stage landing, SpaceX will be having their 328th overall drone ship landing, marking 391st Falcon 9 landing to date and 410th SpaceX's overall landing to date. Now, speaking of landing, here are some of the stats for drone ships prior to today's launch. So please don't get confused with the numbers. This specifically, these stats for the drone ships on your screen right now are prior to today's launch, so that you guys can understand that how many launches have been accomplished, how many landings have been accomplished on each drone ship to date. Meanwhile, you guys are having a look at the stats for the drone ship. I hope that I'm able to provide some merit and value to your viewing experience. And so for that, we request you guys to like this stream so that it helps the YouTube's algorithm to push the stream a little bit further so that it can reach more people. And for that, we will be super grateful to you guys. Now let's have a look into some key stats for SpaceX launches in this year, including today's mission. With today's mission, SpaceX will have the 22nd launch of this year, and out of those, 15 are Starlink missions, including today's one, and 6 were non-Starlink missions for commercial and government organizations. 21 reused booster with this mission. Now, if we look into the geographical distribution of these launches, we get they will be having 15 launches from East Coast, with previous 5 from Launch Complex 39A, that is Kennedy Space Center, and 10 launches with today's mission, that is from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. On the West Coast, they have 6 launches from Space Launch Complex 4 East at Vandenberg Space Force Base. As of now, 1 launch from Gulf Coast at Starbase in Texas, with the 7th integrated flight test and 1 super heavy booster catch. A lot is going on there at the Starbase right now, and I hope you guys who are following the updates for the Starbase will be knowing that the um, launch tower at the orbital pad B is coming to a completion, with the chopstick arms now being operational. Now, Elon mentioned that maybe we will be having the 8th integrated flight test, or you can say the flight 8 for the Starship, probably earlier than the speculated February 24th date. So let's see what happens to that. Other than this, SpaceX has applied for an FCC communication license for the 8th test flight with a start date no earlier than February 24th. This suggests that the launch could occur as early as late February or early March, pending the completion of the Flight 7 mishap investigation. And Elon also mentioned that SpaceX will send Starship rockets to Mars with Optimus robots and Grok in late 2026 when the next Earth and Mars transit occurs. So quite an ambitious target. Now let's come back to the stats where we left. For landings, they will be nailing it for the 20th time this year with today's landing. Mostly, all the not all, mostly the landings have been on the drone ships with 18 drone ship landings, 5 on Of Course I Still Love You, 6 on Just Read the Instructions, including one from today, and 7 on A Shortfall of Gravitas. So as of now, the Shortfall of Gravitas is leading among the drone ship fleet, but today Just Read the Instructions will have a remarkable milestone in its achievement. For ground landings, landing zone 1 and 4 both saw 1 landings each as of now. Right now we are just 5 minutes away from the webcast to begin, so let's quickly wrap up with the stats we are discussing here. Prior to today's launch, the success rate for ground landings is 98.80%. For drone ship landing, it is 96.75%, and the overall landing success rate is 97.15%. Today's mission is the 85th launch since last mission failure, that is Starlink 9-3 mission. Longest stretch of the successful mission in a row prior to the last mission failure, that is the Starlink 9-3 mission, is 333 back-to-back successful missions, that is from Iridium 1 to TurkSat 6A mission. Most launches in a calendar quarter to date is 42 launches, including 2 Starship launches during that quarter. That is in the 4th quarter of last year. And most launches in a calendar month is 17 launches in November, including 1 Starship launch, again in last year only, that is in 2024. Once again, this page of stats are prior to today's launch, and what we have is 134 launches in a calendar year, which is the highest annual launches to date. But as I mentioned before, if we count in Starship launches, then it's 138. 84 successful launches since last mission failure with Starlink 9-3 mission. 68 successful landings since last landing failure with Starlink 8-6 mission. 302 missions with at least 1 reused fairings, and approximately 572 numbers of fairing halves were reused. Once again, just to remind you, these stats I mentioned was prior to today's launch, so don't get confused. Moving on to this year's orbital launches, including today's one. Well, let me check whether the what is the status for the Electron launch. I guess they are still holding the time before this Starlink launch. So in that case, well, it's the 34th orbital launch of this year. The United States is leading with 24 launches, followed by China with 7 launches and 1 launch each by Russia, Japan, and India, marking their debut for orbital launches this year. So now we have this pie chart showing 2025 orbital launches by rocket variations, including today's launch. Falcon 9 is all set for its 21st launch. Previously, there were 2 launches for Electron. It's ongoing for the Electron launch, and 1 launch each for New Glenn and Soyuz 2.1V rockets. China's Long March 3B E variant had 2 launches, while Long March 2D, 6A, 8A, Geelong, and Series 1 rockets each had 1 launch so far. The slice of the pie, labeled as Others, comprises ISRO's GSLV Mark II and Japan's H322S rockets, each having 1 launch. Now we are done with the stats. Let's check whether the webcast has started or not. Well, it did, so let's quickly move on to our webcast page. Let me set up the webcast quickly for you guys. But there is no audio from the SpaceX stream. I don't know why, but whenever this happens, it scares me out. I don't know. Because every time they are not having in the audio, it seems like they are having some problems, or maybe they are mistakenly started the webcast. So, well, I'm monitoring. Whenever the audio feed will be available, I will be patching in for you guys. Meanwhile, we want to thank all of you joining us for today's broadcast. We are truly grateful to have you all here with us. And once again, we would like to request you guys that if you guys hop into the chat and let us know where you guys are tuning in from, we would love it. Also, feel free to drop any questions, suggestions, or share your thoughts as we are waiting for the webcast to begin. We are truly grateful to have you all here. Also, would like to welcome Marcos Antonio for joining us. Thanks, Marcos, for your every time visit and supporting us here. I hope you are doing well and you will be enjoying the stream. Well, it was quite evident because the shuffling of the liftoff time today and with the broadcast time, it was not matching actually. They said they will be starting the webcast 20 minutes prior to the liftoff, but the broadcast time at which they started actually it is not matching. Like it is not 20 minutes earlier. It is actually 23 minutes earlier. So hopefully maybe they will be. Ah, yes, now the audio feed came. Now they are playing the music. So everything is fine. Rest assured. Let them have the audio feed to come and I will patch in for you guys. Adding value to your viewing experience here at AstroYonder is our top priority. If you feel we somewhat achieved that, please consider liking this video. As I mentioned before, it really helps YouTube's algorithm to bring in more space fan and helps others to find out this stream. Also consider subscribing to our channel as we work hard to bring you streams packed with stats, details and insights. We would be incredibly grateful for your support. And just for a reminder, the stats, if you guys are fond of numbers, for the stats, you can join us on our X handle where we are specifically posting these stats prior to any launch. So I hope you guys will be enjoying the numbers on X and joining us. Well, would like to welcome one of our moderator here, Fairmaid. Thanks for tuning in, Fairmaid, and good morning. I know it's morning at your place, and hope you are doing well. Also, would like to welcome Jim Corman, joining us from Florida. Thanks, Jim, for tuning in, and I hope you will be enjoying the stream. If any issues comes in between, please let us know. Don't hesitate, and I really appreciate that you showed up on chat and mentioned that you are there with us. Well, Fairmaid, you know it's early here in the morning. Couldn't sleep at night. How well I will be. But anyways, I'm good, not bad. Just waiting for this launch. Hopefully today we will be getting some good views there at the Bahamas. Actually, this landing is getting so much hyped. So for that, I can sacrifice my sleep and it's fine. And there we go. The webcast has started. They're still right now playing some musics, and we can't allow that music to be played on our stream due to some copyright issues and content ID claims. So let that clean audio feed to come in, and I'm patching it. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. Well, Jim, I was going to mention that why you are here, or that why you are not watching it there right now. You will be able to see it. Well, thanks for choosing us, Jim, and I hope you will be getting a good view with this launch. All the best for that. And here is the audio feed.
And welcome to tonight's very special Starlink launch. Falcon 9 is currently awaiting liftoff just under 16 minutes from now from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida.
Hi everyone, my name is Ronnie Foreman and I'm a Senior Sales Manager here at SpaceX.
And my name is Zachary Lupin. I'm an avionics supply chain engineer.
Today we're live with a special edition Starlink broadcast. This is SpaceX's first ever mission with a drone ship landing off the coast of the Bahamas. This new landing site allows us to launch into optimal trajectories from Florida, maximizing Falcon 9's performance. Landing off the coast of the Bahamas will help us continue to launch to unique orbits, including for our upcoming From-2 mission, which is set to be the first human spaceflight mission in history to orbit directly over the poles, and the first SpaceX mission to conduct human exploration of the Earth's polar regions from space. The new landing location also provides alternative recovery options during the winter, when weather can pose some challenges.
Now, Starlink is the world's first and largest satellite constellation using a low Earth orbit to deliver broadband internet capable of supporting streaming, online gaming, video calls, and more. Starlink delivers high-speed, low-latency internet to more than 121 countries, territories, and other markets with over 4.8 million customers and counting, bringing access to many underserved and remote areas around the world. Now, today's mission is our 15th Starlink launch of the year, and will deliver 23 satellites to our ever-growing constellation. This launch also marks SpaceX's 449th overall Falcon launch and 21st Falcon launch of 2025.
Which is wild. And the good news is that we are on track for another successful launch today. Both the range and vehicle are currently green, and we're tracking an on-time liftoff of 6:21 p.m. Eastern. But if for any reason we are unable to launch today, we do have a backup opportunity available tomorrow at around the same time. Today we are tracking less than a 5% chance of violation at our target T0 time. So while our countdown continues, let's meet today's Falcon 9 rocket.
Now, Falcon 9 is a two-stage rocket known for its safe, reliable, and cost-effective access to space. It's also the first and currently the only orbital-class rocket that's capable of reflight. Now, starting at the very top of the vehicle is the payload fairing, which is a protective shell that encases the payload or satellite that's being sent to space. Those fairings are made of a carbon composite material and have a 17-foot diameter, which creates the space to accommodate your average-sized fire truck. Now, the fairing, made up of two halves, will separate and jettison away from the vehicle, exposing the payload once Falcon 9 reaches the vacuum of space. And both payload fairing halves supporting tonight's mission are flight-proven, with one half flying for its 22nd time and the other flying for its 14th.
Continuing down the vehicle, we have the second stage. The second stage is powered by a single Merlin vacuum engine, or MVAC for short, which is optimized to perform in the vacuum of space. After stage separation, the MVAC engine will ignite and carry today's payloads to their final orbit. The second stage is connected to Falcon 9, the Falcon 9 first stage, by the black composite inner stage, which houses the MVAC engine and the system that decouples the two stages during stage separation.
And below that is the first stage, which is powered by 9 Merlin engines. Those 9 Merlin engines provide the initial thrust to lift Falcon 9 off of the ground through the lower, thicker portion of the atmosphere. And there are 8 engines arranged around one center engine, and all of them are collectively held together in place by a structure that we call the octaweb. Now, each of these Merlin 1D engines delivers about 190,000 pounds of thrust at sea level, which gives Falcon 9 a combined 1.7 million pounds of thrust at liftoff.
After stage separation, stage 1, which we'll also call the booster today, will return to Earth for recovery and reuse on a future mission, using a combination of those Merlin sea level engines and the 4 titanium grid fins located near the top of the booster, which will guide the vehicle during its re-entry and landing. The Falcon 9's first stage is also equipped with 4 landing legs that deploy just before landing and allow for that vertical touchdown on a drone ship or landing pad.
And for today's mission, we've got live views from our drone ship, Just Read the Instructions, which is currently stationed off the coast of the Bahamas near a district known as the Exumas, a group of over 365 islands and keys. Now, both the weather and the vehicle continue to look good for today's launch.
During re-entry, when the booster slows down from supersonic speeds, people in the immediate area may hear a brief double clap of thunder-like sound, known as a sonic boom. Similar sonic booms like this were heard during the return and landing of NASA's space shuttle, and famously occur following a Falcon Heavy launch when 2 boosters return at the same time to the launch site in Cape Canaveral.
Now, sonic booms like these are one of the hallmarks of reusable systems like Falcon. Here's what some of those booster returns have looked and sounded like on previous missions.
I know a lot of people will be excited when they hear the sonic boom.
And these are going to provide quite a show because you're going to hear those sonic booms.
That sonic boom is great for us.
That thunderclap broke the sound barrier.
Side booster separation confirmed.
Just heard the 2 sonic booms here in the room.
Booster landing confirmed.
As we mentioned at the top of today's show, today is the first ever planned drone ship landing off the coast of the Bahamas. In fact, it's the first ever international landing of a rocket booster. One of the primary benefits of opening up additional landing options is that it allows us to maximize Falcon 9's performance.
Now, SpaceX worked with the Bahamian government to establish the new landing profile for this mission. And they took into account Falcon 9's unprecedented launch cadence, safety, and reliability, and were all crucial elements in helping to establish this new landing zone for Falcon. Now, the Bahamas and SpaceX are also working together to enhance local STEM-related education to help inspire the next generation of students.
SpaceX's Vice President of Launch, Kiko Donchev, met with the Deputy Prime Minister of the Bahamas and Minister of Tourism, Investments, and Aviation and delegates during a recent visit to SpaceX in Florida to talk about all of this in depth. Here's a small part of that conversation.
This is significant for the Bahamas in so many ways. The first international landing in the Bahamas, in the Exuma Sound, is significant in and of itself. It puts us at the cutting edge of innovation, and it gives us a small country of 400,000 people to an opportunity to participate in the aerospace industry. This is huge.
You know, it's really the beginning of the future. This is something we've been working on for several years now. We're hopeful that this collaboration enables us to fly the first polar crew mission that will have a booster landing in the Bahamian waters too.
We've long been known for tourism. Bahamas is now going beyond sun, sand, and sea. We hope that millions of people will observe from the Bahamas this event over the coming years. It's an opportunity for collaboration with academia and the University of Bahamas. It's an opportunity really to advance careers for young Bahamians and future Bahamians.
The spaceport of Florida has really evolved since the Apollo era. We had shuttle, and then now Falcon 9 is the most reliable orbital class rocket ever built. This is not a test flight. This is an operational vehicle for America and many other countries. The world depends on Falcon, so safety and reliability are our highest priorities.
We have retained Aisha Bowe, a Bahamian in the aerospace industry. She has worked in partnership with us to ensure that we pull all of the pieces together. We recognize that it's important that safety is put first and foremost, and we have ensured that we've done the due diligence and we've done our work to deliver this first international landing in the Exuma Sound.
I am just amazed by the international collaboration that went into helping us take this booster from Florida to the Bahamas today. Speaking of which, Florida has been the epicenter of U.S. spaceflight since the 1950s.
That's absolutely right, Ronnie. The Space Coast has been the launch pad for some of humanity's greatest spaceflight achievements. In the early 1960s, NASA established the beginnings of the Kennedy Space Center. And in 1961, Alan Shepard became the first American in space, lifting off from Cape Canaveral's Launch Complex 5, the first human spaceflight of Project Mercury.
Things really heated up.
RP1 load is complete.
Confirmation there that we have RP1 load completion on board Falcon 9. Things really heated up in the 1960s, which saw Florida become the heart of the space race. In 1969, Apollo 11 Saturn V roared off from pad 39A, sending the first humans to walk on the moon. 5 more moon landings followed, cementing Florida's role in space exploration. The space shuttle era launched in 1981 with Columbia, pioneering reusable spacecraft and building the International Space Station.
And over the next 30 years, 135 space shuttle missions lifted off from Florida. And today, the Space Coast continues to be the home of the busiest spaceport in the world. SpaceX's very first Falcon 9 launch lifted off from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral in June of 20.
Well, I mistakenly made my mic on mute. Thanks, Firmet, for making me to remind that. I said that. Welcome, Pop Topeka. Thanks for tuning in. One of our moderator here. And you did made it, Pop Topeka, right on time. And it's not any new drone ship today. It's just read the instructions only today. And as you said, the booster is going to have a Bahamian vacation today.
Falcon 9 tanks are pressing for strong back retract.
Confirmation there that mission control is prepping for strong back retract.
And as you said, Fairmate, that you are not getting to see any launches, but sooner you will be getting with the Gilmore space launches. They are gearing it.
And there's the crew at the Booster Monument during a training exercise here in Hawthorne, California.
And there is so much more history to be made with SpaceX supporting NASA and its Artemis program to return humans to the moon. There's confirmation that strong back retract has started. We're also, of course, targeting launches to low Earth orbit, the space station, deep space, the moon, and of course, Mars.
Absolutely, Ronnie. I'm super excited for.
Well, let me just give you an update that today is the first landing of the coast of Bahamas, but right now more 19 landings have been planned for landing near the coast of Bahamas. Just they are waiting for the approval, and upon that, right now we are having more 19 planned landings.
Just to the left of the rocket, and right now it's preparing to retract just about 2 degrees away from the rocket in preparation for full retraction ahead of liftoff.
Now the TE is also equipped with umbilicals or flexible lines that are used to route the vehicle's fluid, power, and telemetry from the ground systems to the rocket and payload until Falcon 9 switches to internal power and clears the pad. You may also hear the TE referred to as the strongback from the launch team, and it definitely does a heavy lifting, a lot of work leading up to launch.
Yeah, no kidding. At this point in the countdown, both the first and second stage are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of rocket-grade kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. Both the first and second stages should finish propellant loading about a minute apart from each other. And we are tracking that first stage call out here in just a couple seconds.
Now, as you may have noticed, there are white clouds forming around the vehicle, and those clouds are comprised of the chilled gas above the LOX tank that gets vented overboard.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
And there's that call out for stage LOX loading complete on the first stage. So those white clouds come from the LOX gas that gets vented overboard to maintain pressure in the tanks as needed. And when that vented oxygen mixes with the warmer outside air, it condenses into the clouds that you see there on your screen.
It's always exciting in the lead up to a launch to watch the entire launch pad really come to life.
Absolutely.
One of the next major milestones we're listening in for will be at T-minus 60 seconds, when Falcon 9 will enter startup mode. That means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers will take over the launch countdown. Then, just inside of T-minus 2 seconds, we'll light the M1D engines for liftoff. At this time, the payload continues to be healthy, and the Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket.
Weather is also
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And good call out there for stage 2 LOX loading completion. The weather is still looking green, and the range is ready to support our T0 of 6:21 p.m. Eastern Time. And with that, we're proceeding into the last few minutes of terminal count. So let's listen in.
We did got awesome views for the Falcon 9.
One of the next visual milestones.
And you are saying, Pop Topeka, and actually this collaboration between SpaceX and Bahamian government was with an exchange from SpaceX that they will be exhibit the spacesuit and rockets for the citizens of Bahamas. So I hope the kids and the Gen Z will be going there and to have a look of this text, and maybe they will be really inspired.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
It's a good call out there that we're on startup mode for Falcon 9.
Next up, we are waiting for the go call out from the launch director.
Launch director, go for launch.
And a confirmation from our launch director. So with that, all systems are go for the launch of Falcon 9. Let's sit back and listen in to the final countdown.
Today the cloud looks like a little bit gloomy and cloudy, although there is no issues from the weather perspective.
15 seconds. Minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Engine full power. And liftoff. Go Falcon. Go Starlink.
Vehicle touching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
I hope, Jim, you could see that liftoff at your place back in Florida with the awesome rumble. Falcon lifted off. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower right now. We got some good call out.
Which is the point in the mission profile where the vehicle experiences the greatest amount of aerodynamic pressure.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Good call out there. As it ascends through the Earth's atmosphere, we should be hearing that call out for max Q in just about 15 seconds from now. And another good call out there.
Max Q is, of course, a critical milestone for us here at SpaceX because it is that period of maximum aerodynamic pressure on the rocket during ascent.
Max Q.
And confirmation that we've made it through. So coming up next, we'll have 3 events happening in quick succession, starting with MECO, followed by Stage SEP, and then Second Engine Start 1, or SES1 for short.
Now, main engine cutoff, or MECO, is where all 9 Merlin 1D engines shut down in preparation for stage separation, which is where the first stage separates from the second stage. Following that, the MVAC engine on the second...
started.
Good call out there. Following that, the MVAC engine on the second stage will light, which is called out over the nets as Second Engine Start 1, or SES1.
That first engine burn of MVAC will last several minutes and propel the second stage and the payload to orbit. In addition to these 3 major events, the fairing halves will also separate less than a minute after SES1. So keep an eye out for all of those on your screen here. We should continue to have great views of our launch today. And of course, we are always listening into Mission Control for the latest and greatest.
Really, we are getting awesome views, and we did got good call out that we are in nominal trajectory for the vehicle. And Paprika, you are jealous of Jim, but Fairmed and me, we both are jealous of both of you. Both of you are from Florida, so.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
And there you heard those 3 callouts back to back, which again were MECO, stage separation, and SES1.
Now we will be seeing the stage nitrogen thrusters beginning to orient the first stage, and the flight computers has commanded the hypersonic titanium grid fins, the 4 of them, to slowly begin deploying now that the stage separation is successful. Next up is the fairing separation. So let's hear the call out.
Great views there that we have confirmation of fairing separation.
Separation confirmed.
And the call out for mission control.
We're getting some tracking views of the Falcon 9.
Again today, once they fall back to Earth with our recovery vessel, Bob.
Now at T plus 3 minutes and 40 seconds into today's mission, the next major milestone coming up just under 3 minutes from now will be the entry burn of the Falcon 9 booster as it continues on its journey towards our drone ship, which is currently stationed in the Bahamas.
Again, today we are getting some awesome views on from the first stage as those nitrogen gas bursts are coming out so that to reorient itself as it descends back towards the Earth.
entry forces, which helps us to recover and reuse that first stage.
Now, during that entry burn...
Well, my mistake, Pop Tropica. Yes, you did visit it at the Florida, and you are not from Florida. But okay, you are still having the chance to visit the Florida. So for that, we are jealous of you. And at least you are staying at the East Coast. So...
And with each flight, the soot builds up a little more on the outside of the vehicle.
Of course, at this point in the flight, we have two really exciting things going on.
Nominal trajectory.
And there's a confirmation from mission control that we're on nominal trajectories, which means that everything is going as it should. You hear us use the word nominal a lot here at SpaceX, and that means that things are right on track. If you're interested in following along with the speed and velocity going on with both of our vehicles, you can track the telemetry in the bottom corners of your screen. Again, on the left-hand side of your screen, we're tracking stage 1 on its way to the Bahamas, and on the right-hand side, we have the MVAC burning up in space.
We are now just 1 minute away from the entry burn startup for the stage 1, and that burn will just around 25 seconds.
The Falcon 9 first stage that will be that is supporting today's mission is flying for its 16th time today. Those payload fairings, which are also supporting tonight's mission, are flight proven, with one half flying for its 22nd and the other half flying for its 14th.
Well, Pop Tropica not to the Bermuda Triangle, is going to the Exumas. Don't say that it will be going to Bermuda Triangle. We don't want to lose an air recovery vessel. And again, to be precise, again, for losing a recovery vessel, who knows, FAA will be having an investigation for that as well, and Falcon 9 will be grounded. So don't say this. Let's say good things about them.
20,500 pounds of thrust in vacuum. Coming up in just about 10 seconds, we'll have the entry burn of that first stage. The landing burn should then follow at about 7 minutes and 52 seconds into our mission today.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
There's confirmation of entry burn startup.
And here we just lit 3 of Merlin 1D engines on the first stage. We are rapidly slowing down the vehicle, as you can see on the bottom left side of your screen from the telemetry as it enters the Earth's atmosphere. At 25 seconds of burn and good views there.
And confirmation of shutdown. And we are already getting some great views on your screen there, and we are hoping that all of you joining us from the ground in the Exumas are going to have a great view.
On a nominal trajectory.
Great view of landing too. And there's another call out that everything is headed in the right direction.
Now, coming up in just about a minute from now, we should hear that
Stage
call.
1 FTS has saved.
Another good call out there. In about a minute from now, we should hear that call out for landing bird startup on the Falcon 9 first stage, which, as a reminder, is on the left-hand side of your screen.
Those of who are not familiar about stage 2 FTS being saved, what it means the orbital insertion burn for the second stage is being accomplished, which is a good call out. Now, next call out, we are expecting for stage 1 being transonic.
Stage 1 transonic.
There we go. It means that the Falcon 9 is now slower than the speed of sound. So we are now less than 60 seconds away from the landing.
And just in case you are just joining us today, this is particularly exciting because this is about to be the first international landing of a first stage booster.
Welcome, Angry Bird.
Stage 1 landing burn.
And great call out there for landing burn startup
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
of the Falcon 9 first stage. We're now waiting for Falcon 9 to land on Just Read the Instructions, currently off the coast of the Bahamas.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And there you heard that.
Actually, this view I was wanting.
Welcome to the Bahamas, Falcon 9. Now, as a reminder, this was the 16th launch and landing for this first stage. And meanwhile, that second stage is on track to complete the rest of its mission today to deliver 23 Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit.
That will bring to a close our coverage of SpaceX's 21st launch of the year and 234th Starlink mission to date. Today's launch will further increase Starlink's capacity to deliver high-speed, low-latency connectivity across the globe. Streaming, video calls, online gaming, remote working, and more are now possible in even the most remote locations, thanks to the world's most advanced internet system.
And we're excited to continue working with the Bahamian government.
So with these great views for the landing of the first stage, which was much anticipated. Really, I was expecting that view, and as I hope they mentioned that today's launch marks SpaceX's 449th successful mission, with the landing marking their 410th success. But the remarkable part is the SpaceX's first international landing off the coast of Bahamas with the instructions drone ship. So I guess just the instructions drone ship is one of the luckiest among the drone ship fleet. So with that, we will also wrap up our coverage for today. Today's launch, as I mentioned, was a successful 449th mission for SpaceX. And with that, we will thank all of you. Well, Angry Bird, sorry I couldn't address you because that time only they were showing those magnificent views of the landing of the first stage. And Jim, we are happy that you got to see those views from your backyard. Well, at that very same time, we are jealous a little bit also. Pop Typical already mentioned, and right now I'm mentioning. So thanks everyone for joining us, and Fairmate, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you are good and you will remain to be good. So finally, and most importantly, we want to thank all of you for tuning in to our live launch coverage. Can do this broadcast without your support, and we are grateful for your continued encouragement for everything what we do at AstroYonder. Be sure to check out our social media handle on X for the latest happenings in the space industry and updates on upcoming launches. I hope the link is being posted on the chat section. We hope that you enjoyed the stream, and once again, we appreciate everyone joining us for today's launch. Wishing you a nice week ahead. This is AstroYonder Live and me, Dipta, signing off for now, and we will see you next time. Bye.